Hi there, this is John Wilkinson again from History Made Easier, with a presentation that takes a look at the key points to consider with regard to what came to be known as the Stresemann Years, or Weimar's Golden Years. The most important thing for me is that this period shows that there was an alternative to Hitler, reform rather than revolution, and working with other powers rather than bullying them. It reminds us that there was nothing inevitable about the history we study. Other choices could have been made, other paths taken. Stresemann, by introducing a new currency, the Rentenmark, ended hyperinflation, and by negotiating the withdrawal of French and Belgian troops, and by negotiating revisions to Germany's reparation payments, the Dawes Plan and later the Young Plan, and we should remember that the need for a second revision was written into the Dawes Plan, not only stabilised Germany's economy, but also stabilised its politics. But it did come at a price. Government jobs were lost, as was the promise of an 8-hour working day. Social welfare was slashed too, and Weimar lost the support of many workers. Whilst for the nationalist right, it still meant that the German government accepted the terms of the hated Treaty of Versailles, and they still didn't accept Weimar democracy. As for the loans that the German government negotiated, everyone seemed to benefit. German industry could modernise and expand. Also, the German government, central, regional and local, could invest in such public facilities as new housing, schools and hospitals. Germany could meet its reparation payments, which meant that Britain and France could then repay their war loans to America. Everyone's a winner, baby, if you know the old Hot Chocolate song. But though the loans helped the German economy to recover, it became dependent on them, and Germany began to dance on Stresemann's volcano. In a speech he made in 1928, he said, with reference to the American loans, "Germany is dancing on a volcano." And the volcano would blow with the Wall Street crash in 1929. Still, Weimar entered its golden years. German industry began to boom, more than doubling overall production between 1923 and 1929, and many Germans had a good time. Weimar's golden years produced a culture with which Weimar would be associated with. It was the culture of the cinema, nightclubs, of jazz, cabaret clubs, and liberated women and dances such as the tango and the foxtrot. At its shadier end, there was a drug culture, and shows bordering on pornography. The whole thing was seen by the right as degenerate and anti-German, and meanwhile unemployment remained stubbornly high, reaching 1 million by the end of 1925 and 2 million in 1926. That's 10% of the working population. And remember, this is more than 3 years before the Wall Street crash would lead to the Great Depression. This, in turn, led to a sharp worsening in industrial relations. Stresemann didn't actually last long as Chancellor. He lasted much longer as Foreign Secretary, a post he held until he died in 1929. And in that time, he brought Germany in from the cold, negotiating the Locarno treaties, the end to Germany's occupation, and Germany's membership of the League of Nations, as a permanent member of its council. This was the period of rapprochement, a growing understanding between enemies, former enemies, a willingness to work together for the benefit of all. But we should note the debate about the way historians perceive Stresemann's aims. Was he genuinely trying to reintegrate Germany into Europe and so ensure peace in a policy of fulfilment, hoping it would lead to negotiated revisions of the Treaty of Versailles? Or was he first and foremost a German nationalist, attempting to blindside Europe into thinking Germany had accepted the treaty, whilst all the time he was planning to undermine it at every opportunity, perhaps even to the point of seizing the lost territories in the east? Don't forget, Germany was rearming secretly long before Hitler came to power. There's always a debate to be had in history, or nearly always. Now, I've mentioned the political stability Stresemann brought to Germany. In the golden years, electoral support for parties hostile to the Republic, both left and right, seemed to be in decline, as support for moderate parties supportive of the Republic increased. The election of Hindenburg, the epitome of traditional Germany, as president in 1925, helped provide stability too. There were no attempts like the Spartacist Rising of 1919, the Kapp Putsch of 1920, or the Munich Beer Hall Putsch of 1923 to overthrow the Republic. Nevertheless, scratch the surface, and instability was an ever-present. In the 4.5 years, starting in November 1923 and ending in June 1928, there were 6 different governments, lasting on average a little more than 9 months each. And there were still too many parties opposed to Weimar. The Communist Party, for the most part the German Nationalist Party, and also the Nazis. Whilst the biggest party throughout both these periods, the Social Democratic Party, was reluctant to work with the pro-Weimar but middle-class parties. And all the time, the role of paramilitary groups, the Nazi Party's SA or brown shirts, the steel helmets who weren't tied to any party but were very much right-wing, the Communists' Red Front Fighters League, or the Social Democrats' Reichsbanner, continued to parade through the streets of towns and cities across Germany, carrying the fight physically to the enemy. So, I hope that overview was useful for you. Don't forget there's my website, History Made Easier. That's there to help you too. But for now, let me thank you for listening and wish you the very best of luck in your studies. Cheers.